Before we begin, thank you very much to Des Shinta for joining the Patreon campaign. Thank you very much for the support. Really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. We had a weird run here where I've had a few people updating and altering their pledges with new names to try and get the shoutout streak to continue. That's not how it works. The shoutouts are for brand new members of the Patreon campaign, fresh signees. So switching your name and changing your pledge does not help. I appreciate it, but it does not help. I do have one more shout out to go, so we will at least crawl into the month of November with one more left in the bank. The one thing I know some of you do is cancel your subscription and then restart a new one with a new name. And that's a loophole, but I'll let you get away with it. Oh well. Oh well, thank you very much. It's been 9 straight months of shout-outs, and I thank you very much for it. It's been fun. Okay, this is going to be a hot take video. I know some people don't like the hot take videos, but this has been the topic on all of the socials for a few days now, and I want to put it to bed. So we're going to be discussing a few things we've already discussed in the past. We're going to tie it all together, and there's been some recent changes that kind of warrant the attention of, well, me. So we're going to be talking about Studio Series Gamer Edition again. So a little bit this is going to feel familiar because we've already talked about this a few months ago about how it already felt like the line was in trouble, even though it was still pretty fresh. And now we've got a whole new thing to it. Yes, I'm going to harp on the same thing I've harped on a couple times. It's going to be the last time, I promise. But let's just kind of go over this really quick just to see where we are as far as the Gamer Edition goes. So for starters, we start on a very, very strong note. The War for Cybertron Optimus Prime is in my listing for potential Toy of the Year. It is a fantastic figure. I love the bulky silhouette. I love how smooth the transformation is compared to the original one, which I always felt was kind of clunky. And it's got hollow parts, but it gives him the ability to work his size and work it really, really well. I am absolutely in love with this figure. I think this is a fantastic figure. And this gave me so much hope. This gave me so much hope for Gamer Edition as a whole. And then everything else happened. So for starters, we're going to talk about Barricade. I've got Barricade now, and I'm actually surprised. For Barricade's size, for Barricade's price point, he actually feels like a very large figure. In a few ways, he reminds me of like a Cybertron-style figure. Unfortunately, that's pretty much where my kindness ends. There's a lot of weirdness to him. A lot of backpack and a lot of junk hidden on the backside of him. So not a whole lot of his vehicle makes up his robot, which, is a kind of a sticking point for me. The feet are terrible. The feet on him are absolutely terrible. They're feet that are hinged incorrectly, which means, it's very hard for him to hold weight in certain directions, and stay upright. Also, they're big flat feet, but they just don't really seem to do anything, which makes it really hard for him to hit certain poses. He's a clunky figure. He's a really clunky figure, and I think I like him more than most. I've seen some people really trash on this one. I don't think he's as bad as people say. He's still mid. He's still very average, but I've seen worse. I've played with worse. I think the Bumblebee is worse because I think it still has a really clunky transformation just like the original deluxe one did, but I think the proportions are worse. I hate the fact he's got no midsection and his chest sticks out way too far. And we've gone over this. We've done the side-by-side with him and his game model. We've seen the photos that Hasbro put out there of here's the CAD model from the game. Here's the CAD model from our toy developer. And they're not even close. The legs are off. The forearms are off. There's a lot of things that are off. And it's very unfortunate. And of course, this bleeds into the Cliff Jumper retool as well. A lot of things off on him as well. I think the red tends to look better. The red tends to look better on this mold. But it's still rough. It's still rough. All I wanted was a clean transformation. I went into this toy knowing that the proportions on it were terrible, and it really didn't hit the look of the character from the video game. But I just wanted a clean transformation because I actually really like the vehicle mode. I think the vehicle mode's cute and super sci-fi, and I really, really like it, and I wanted to enjoy it, and I can't. I couldn't. It just doesn't work. The one I had the most hope for was the Megatron, because I think a lot of people did. Because the original Megatron is so good. Like, the original, like, War for Cybertron Megatron that they did is a really, really good figure. It's very solid. Transformations, super clean. You got a rolling tank mode and a hover tank, so you have an option there. You had a firing missile, which is a very rare thing these days. You had a lot of really good stuff. It was just a really, really cool, solid Megatron figure. And then this one happened. It's barely any bigger than the original one. You don't have the optional treaded tank mode. You've got a lot of weird proportion choices on him. And he just feels bad. He just does not feel nearly as good as the first one did. It's unfortunate. Like, this is like a heartbreak. If I'm doing like a top 10 most disappointing toys of 2023, this one is going to be very high on that list. He's going to be very high on that list. I think he'd be on the list like that for a lot of people. Because, man, this should have been great. This should have been greatness. Alas. And then we have the newest one on the block that is not out yet, but people have been talking about it a lot. We have the new Starscream. I have been harping on this thing for more than one video, and I'm going to do it again. Like I said, this is going to be the last time, I promise, we've had in-hand shots of this toy at this point. Meaning, like, news cycle-wise, I have no more reason to bring this thing up. However, we do have to discuss it in length because I still see people coming to its defense. Now, if you enjoy the look of the toy, if the toy looks fine to you and you think you're going to have fun with the figure, by all means, have fun with a figure. I'm not going to say you're wrong for liking how the toy looks, but you can like how it looks and still acknowledge that it looks wrong. I put that up to, I put that up to Velocitron Scourge a lot. This is the example that I have. Does the toy look good? Yes. Does it look correct? No. No, it does not. It gets a lot of the details wrong. The chest especially is completely off model from how Scourge looks. Like, there's a lot of stuff here that looks really nice. And then there's a lot that doesn't because the designer, admittedly, just went with stock standard Nemesis Prime procedure instead of looking at the source material. So he ends up looking that bad and that off. And I think the same is true here. Like, I can go ahead and enjoy that toy and say it looks nice. You can go ahead and say this toy looks nice, but still acknowledge a lot of this toy is off. So, okay, I will give you this. The jet mode looks fine. I actually like the look of the jet mode. And yes, the little tiny wings, that's actually on model. Remember, Cybertronian. Air current is not exactly a thing. So he does not need to really lift off from anywhere. He can just be a little space rocket. Now, they did have a CAD example from here. And yeah, look. It actually does follow the design of the vehicle mode pretty well. I mean, I'm missing the extended fins along the sides, but I didn't anticipate them actually managing to work that in anyway. You can still see the cockpit's way too big, but overall, like, this actually hits the silhouette, admittedly, better than the original toy does. Okay, so hey, look, I don't have to be completely mean to this figure. I can give it some credit too. That said, I still personally like the look of the original better. The big argument I saw, and this is so absurd to me, the big argument everyone had in favor of the new version is the fact that, oh, the old toy has his head exposed. The head on the original toy is exposed, therefore it is bad. You have any idea what a bad take that is? You have any idea what a bad take that is? I could point out so many figures that have a visible head if you know what you're looking for. In vehicle mode, you cannot tell that is a head unless you know that is his head, for starters. So let's not like freak out like that is some be all end all flaw. Number one. Number two, if you want to actually fix the flaw, you can do so with the flip out panel. You could take the original transformation of the original figure and just add a flip out panel and you would fix that head problem. More than this, hey, I could fix the problem on the original toy with some off-white paint. If I painted the back of Starscream's head off-white, you wouldn't be able to tell it was his head in vehicle mode. Look, it's a minor flaw. It is a minor flaw that ignores a whole lot of everything else this toy does wrong. Now, I will give you this, okay? Here's the consensus I will give you. I don't think either version of the toy is good. So, old toy on the left, new toy on the right. All right, so we can like fairly judge this now. So obviously the cockpit, definitely better on the original toy. The shape of the details on the legs, that's better on the original toy. On the new toy, it looks way too swollen and blown out. I don't think either gets the details on the sides of the legs correct. I mean, yeah, not really. Like, based solely on the fact the color is right, the original toy would get it. The forearms technically are better on the new one. They are far more swollen than they should look, however. The shoulders also look a lot more swollen than they should from the original model. I don't think, like, neither one of them really gets the intakes behind the head correctly. I still think the round edge kind of makes the new one look like it has bunny ears. I'm never gonna not see that. The original toy at least has a little bit more of a sharp angle to it, but neither one is actually correct. I will give it that much credit. Like, there's great detail that is incorrect on the chest on both of them. That is lacking. Feet wise, I think it looks like the original has a little bit better the foot profile. It's hard to tell, honestly, but still, for the overall look, and what's closer to the model, it's got to be the original one. I will give you this: neither one of them hits the nail. I don't think either one of them really does a great job, but I think the original one does better. So the fact that they didn't do the original one and just improve it to be a little bit more accurate is kind of like astounding to me, considering we've done this recently. Earthrise Starscream took an old Starscream transformation and upgraded it to be a modern figure. That's all it really takes. You could have just upscaled it, fix some proportions to balance it out a little bit more, fix the head being exposed if it really bugs you that much. Would have been great. Would have been fine. But no. They went from the ground up with a completely new everything, and I feel like it's inferior. I really do. Like, I cannot look at this and go, like, objectively go that, yeah, the new one is definitely better than the old one. Look at this. Look at how this works out. Like, that's the CAD model from the game on the left. They got the shoulder things wrong on both versions. That's another thing I would give it. Like, these collar pieces are wrong on both versions of the toy. But the new one with the snap-on bits definitely looks worse. It looks cheaper. Plain looks cheaper. So this has been going to my head. Like, and this is just like, how do you get it this wrong when you've had over a decade to stare at this design and go, this is how we would do it, and still get it wrong? How do you have a decade's worth more, a better toy engineering knowledge in your heads, and you still do things this poorly to the point where, like, the new one just kind of looks swollen. He looks like a swollen version of what he's supposed to be. So that's been the big debate, is this Starscream that just does not fit the part correctly. And yes, in my opinion, does not look as good as the original toy. However, there is the new wrinkle in all of this, and that is Transformers Reactivate. We've talked about these on the news roundup. I'm waiting for some real Reactivate news to drop so we can actually discuss it on the whole, in general. But look at the toys. Look at this. So that Starscream has like so much more unique personality to it that I really, really like. There's aspects of it that remind me of various different Starscreams. It's hitting a familiar silhouette, but it's got a lot of details working through it that is unique to it. Of course, number one being, the asymmetrical design with like the patched up look on his right side especially. And Bumblebee's got a little bit of that as well. Now, I really wish we had an in-game model for Starscream to compare this toy to. We kind of have to go off of the Bumblebee, and I will admit the Bumblebee is somewhat off-model. Now, this is an earlier model. They could have updated it, so we don't know exactly how accurate it is, but there is a lot of detail from this Bumblebee that actually does pan out into the toy, though the toy does have a lot of extra junk for to accommodate the fact that it has to transform into a vehicle. Now, the vehicle itself, we can compare, because we actually do have a good look at the CAD for that. Again, I think the Starscream looks really good and unique. I actually really, really like what the Starscream is doing, and it definitely looks like it hits a different note than a lot of recent ones. I can see where the transformation is a little bit more simplified. I can see the arms under the wings, of course, but I'm really looking forward to seeing exactly how that Starscream works. Now, take a look at the Bumblebee, this off-road buggy-looking Bumblebee. You see the roll bar, you see where the lights are hanging off of the fenders and the brush guard. And if I go and take a look at the model, it's actually pretty close. It's actually pretty spot on, right down to the yellow across the sides. This actually works. No, they actually got it right. And then the big one came down this week. We got a full gallery, really, of the Optimus Prime. And this is an amazing looking Optimus Prime. Like, this looks fantastic. Even if you didn't realize this was based on a video game, you would still pick this Prime up just because it's a really good looking Optimus Prime. I mean, it's clean. I mean, it's well proportioned, it's got some junk in the back, which is the typical place it hides a lot of, its transformation junk these days, but that's getting pretty common. It doesn't really bug me anymore. But the toy itself just looks really, really nice. And then you go to the game model. And it's spot on. It's spot on. Like, they absolutely nailed the look of the in-game model on this character. Absolutely nailed it. Let me take a look at the back side of the toy, too. If we take a look at the back of the model, I mean, it seems like it hits a few of the points, too. It looks like it does a good job of actually imitating it, even though it's got to hide a bunch of the back panel there, like a lot of the back kibble. And it works. It works for me. It works really well. We'll take a look at the vehicle mode, too. The vehicle looks super cool. Like, it's got, like, I love the jagged bumper with all this, like, wear and tear on it. Like, that's actually how, like, battle damage and wear and tear paint should look. Are you paying attention, Siege designers, who probably worked on this toy too, so never mind me. But yeah, then look at the game model. Again, it's spot on. It's exactly how it's supposed to look. Man, it's weird. Imagine this. They had, what, a year, maybe a year and a half to work on these, on these toys based on these models that were, in development from the game studio. And they nailed it. And they absolutely nailed it. But you look at the Fall of Cybertron stuff that they've been looking at for over a decade, and you just kind of sit and wonder, why? Why did it turn out this bad? Like, obviously they can nail video game-based Transformer designs. Obviously they can nail these designs. I mean, that, like, yeah, like, it's just a really, really good, really good. So what happens when, something like Bumblebee, who looks so off-model from the Fall of Cybertron version? What happens with Barricade, whose engineering looks so messy by comparison? And of course, yeah, what happens with that Starscream, who looks so swollen and off-model from the original? It's weird and it's frustrating. And it's so disheartening, because I had so much excitement for Gamer Edition and everything it could do, but things like this are just taking the wind out of my sails so fast. Oh well. So like I said, it's going to be the last time I harp on this, until we get some real stuff for Gamer news for Gamer Edition or Reactivate. Probably the last time we're going to be harping on gamer editions issues. I'm hoping for the best because obviously, like, I think it presents some really cool opportunities to get some designs out that have never really gotten their due justice yet. But they deserve better than this. Like, when a toy line is 1 for 6 on good adaptations, that's a problem. And it's one I sincerely hope gets fixed here in the near future. But until then, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone for yet another solid month of support. It means the world to me. Remember, my Patreon link is in the description below. If you feel like my channel is worth supporting, I do appreciate it if you do. Thank you guys, everyone out there. I will see you next time.
We parlay with the captain.
You think a werecroc is going to listen to elvish rules of piracy?
Of course it would be the freaking elves that invented parlay.
I had to think of a quick replacement for the French.
Oh.